My name is Pierre Bourque I'm located in Montreal, Canada, and I will be moderating this session for you. Next slide, please. Yes, thank you. So let's talk a little bit about the format. So I will be giving the what I'm doing right now, the introduction, and a little bit of the format overview. And then we will move on to the opening statements from our two candidates. I would like to, first of all, thank them very much for being with us today. Dr. Hinchey from Ireland, who I believe is in the United States today, but if I understood correctly, and Dr. Washizaki from Japan, who is taking this call very late in the evening. Thank you for being with us again. Thank you for being with us as well, and best of luck to the both of you. So they will be opening statements from each candidate. Dr. Washizaki first. We flipped a coin earlier this week, and then Dr. Hinchey. There will be 5 minutes allotted for each candidate to make their opening statement, and each candidate will have 1 minute to respond to the other candidate statements. We will then be going to a question period. We have submitted already 2 questions to the candidates, and they have prepared answers, and they will be allotted 2 minutes each to provide these answers. And then we will move on to questions that have been notably provided by members via social media, or we will be moderating the online chat today to see if any questions come in. So please, if you have any questions, this is the opportunity to ask them, submit them via the chat, and I will be moderating this, as well as various staff members who are online, so that we have the opportunity to ask these questions to our 2 esteemed candidates. Then we will go to closing statements. Will be Dr. Hinchey first and Dr. Washizaki. They will have 3 minutes each, and each candidate will have 1 minute additional comments subsequently. This whole session will take 1 hour, will run for 1 hour, and it is being recorded. Recorded has begun, and this session will be put online and very shortly. So thank you all for being with us, and let's move on. So go to the next slide, please. So let's go through a little bit of logistics. The attendees are all muted. This is in a webinar format. But as I mentioned earlier, you can ask, and please do ask questions during the sessions. We are moderating this very diligently, and we will try to address your questions within the time allotted. Per IEEE policies, each candidate will be asked the same question. So if your question comes in, both candidates will have the opportunity to answer the question. As I mentioned earlier, this town hall session is being recorded and will be uploaded on the Computer Society website by next Monday. So, and of course, this town hall is being held in the context of the Computer Society elections, and I encourage all of you, of course, to vote. To take part in these elections. This is very important, obviously. Next slide, please. So we flipped the coin earlier this week to decide the order of the opening statements. Each candidate has 5 minutes for their opening statements. So we will begin by Dr. Washizaki, and please start.
Thank you, Pierre. Next slide, please. Yes. Okay, so hello, everyone. I'm Hironori Washizaki. I'm working at Waseda University in Tokyo, Japan, as a professor and the associate dean of the Research Promotion Division. I'm also a visiting professor at the National Institute of Informatics. In addition, I also work in the industry as outside directors of several companies. So I know both academia and industry. And I'm leading many academia, industry joint research, and teaching projects in software engineering, IoT, and machine learning. So in IEEE, I'm currently serving as Computer Society first vice president to lead activities and future directions of computer society. Furthermore, I have worked for many years in Computer Society's Professional and Educational Activities Board. Especially in these years, I served as Computer Society Vice President for Professional and Educational Activities to lead various activities, including evolution of the guide to the software engineering body of knowledge, in short, CBOK guide. CBOK guide shall be a foundation for organizing educational courses and certifications in software engineering and related areas. I have also been contributing to sister societies and related communities, such as ISO and Japan IPSJ. For example, in ISO, I have been leading standards in professionals and certifications as a convener of a working group. So I'm passionate about leading professional and community activities based on long-term experiences in computer society and other societies. Then next slide, please. So to continuously develop a human-centered, digitalized, engineered, sustainable, well-being world, the computer society must play critical roles in the global digitalization and intelligent computing environment. Toward this direction, if elected, firstly, I will promote the computer society membership to get more engagement, especially for students and early career industrial and academic professionals, by establishing strategic directions and aligning cross-community activities. In relation to that, I have a concrete plan to launch a new ambassador program, enhance mentoring opportunities, and develop the CS brand awareness of broad ages, including juniors. For example, please take a look at this figure. This figure shows a set of strategies to increase the brand awareness, targeting K-12 students as well as non-members in general. And secondly, I will expand academia, industry, government, society collaborations across other IEEE societies and external entities, including ISO, by leading strategic long-term future direction development and expanding opportunities. Then next slide, please. And thirdly, I will enhance activities that define and promote barriers of knowledge and related professional activities to build a solid foundation for further digitalization and smart computing involving new areas. Since I have led the evolution of the CBOK guide, I know its importance, and I'm very confident to lead that way. Last but not least, I will strengthen digital open science and environments, such as providing remote conference and community building supports, reducing barriers to digital libraries, and enriching online courses, and accelerating related standardizations with much more diversity and inclusion. The last one can be a long-term strategy. For example, this figure shows my vision in terms of how the physical world shall be enhanced by fully digitalized research bars, as well as an executable knowledge-based digital open science, such as open standards, open access, open data, and open source. By leading and implementing these short-term and long-term activities in an agile way, together with you, Computer Society member, we can make the Computer Society a much stronger but sustainable and nimble professional home with much more diversity, together with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Washizaki. Dr. Hinchey, 1 minute to respond.
Thank you, Pierre. Thank you, Hiro. Great presentation. Hiro is a very formidable opponent, and it is going to be an interesting campaign, and I look forward to a very positive campaign. Thank you, Hiro.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hinchey. Now it's your turn for your opening statement.
Great. Thank you, Pierre. You go to the next slide, please. Thank you, everyone, for joining us, and thank you for the opportunity to introduce myself to you. As you've heard, my name is Mike Hinchey. I was born in Limerick, a small city on the west coast of Ireland. I grew up there and had my education there up to and including my bachelor's degree in computer systems from the local university. Then I immediately went to the UK, where I took a master's degree in computation at Oxford and a PhD in computer science at Cambridge. And then after multiple travels around the world, I've ended up back at Limerick at the University of Limerick as Professor of Software Engineering, and until recently, I was the head of department also. The next slide, please. So my career has been basically divided between working in government and in academia. So I was appointed to a 4-year position as director of the NASA Software Engineering Lab with the intention of bringing in expertise in software correctness, from where I moved into autonomous systems. This was to be a 4-year position, but it ended up being a 15-year position. I worked on the James Webb Space Telescope, which you can see here on the top left. I am in the group of people, but obviously you can't make me out. I've also worked on Artemis, the mission to go back to the moon and ultimately onto Mars, on the renovations of the Hubble Space Telescope, and on the various Mars rovers. The lady in the bottom right with me is my late mother, who got her first patent at 81. This was licensed to NASA, and it is used in the helicopter on Mars. Next slide, please. As I said, the other half of my career has essentially been in academia. I moved back to Ireland 15 years ago to be both Professor of Software Engineering and Director of LERO, which is the National Software Engineering Centre that is headquartered at the University of Limerick, and I did that for 6 years. I previously worked in Australia as the Director of the Software Verification Research Centre. I've had a number of academic positions in the US and in Sweden, and also had a number of visiting positions in Japan, in Brazil, in Germany, and in Northern Ireland. Next slide, please. So your president-elect has to have a good understanding and expertise in the workings of the Computer Society and the various aspects that it addresses. So I'm currently serving on the Board of Governors. I've been on the editorial board of Computer since 2005, other than a 2-year period. I've guest edited 4 special issues. I've also been the founder and chair of 2 technical committees that were founded by Computer Society. I've been the vice chair of Computer Society Technical Activities Board, and I've served on the Conference Publishing Oversight Committee. I've been involved in more than 100 Computer Society events at various levels. I've been chair, general chair, conference chair, program committee chair, finance chair, etc. And I've also served as a Computer Society distinguished speaker. And I regularly speak at IEEE and IEEE Computer Society conferences around the world. Of course, for the last few years, a lot of those have been virtual. Thank you. Next slide. It's also very important that the president-elect, ultimately the president, has a good relationship with IEEE, is involved with IEEE, understands the processes of IEEE, etc. In that context, I'm the chair of IEEE's Global Public Policy Committee, which approves policy statements from various IEEE units, mostly IEEE USA, but not only. I held that role last year and this year. I'm also the chair this year and next year of the IEEE Conduct Review Committee dealing with complaints against members and their behavior. I am a member of the Conference Application Review Committee and Distinguished Women in Engineering Committee. So I have a good understanding of publications, conferences, policy, etc. I've also been the past
I would encourage you to, you have about 1 minute left, Dr.
Okay,
Hinchey,
yeah.
So.
I've also been past chair of the IEEE Public Visibility Committee and the past chair of the IEEE UK and Ireland section, which I discovered last week is the largest section in the world. And I'm also IEEE Region 8 Director-elect. And next slide, please, Pierre. I've had a lot of interaction with other organizations and other roles. So for example, I've spent 6 years as president of IFIP. That's the organization established by UNESCO as an umbrella body for computer societies. IEEE Computer Society was a member in the past. I've also been president of the Irish Computer Society for 3 terms. I serve on UNCTAD's STIXnet, which I'll talk about later, and I've been editor-in-chief of a couple of journals. The next slide, please. So my goal is that we continue to expand Computer Society membership, but maintaining the level of excellence that we're known for, the prestige of being a member, and keeping everything relevant to society and on the world stage. But at the same time, providing the best services for all our members, wherever they happen to be. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hinchey, Dr. Washizaki. Would you like to respond? 1 minute.
Yes, I believe Mike is a truly great candidate. So having discussion and also exchanging ideas and opinions, and perhaps this town hall should be a very great opportunity to identify common and also different views on the challenge and solutions in computing and also computer society. So this should be great. Thank you.
Thank you, Hiro.
Thank you. And I hope in the future you will be a bit more, not just saying the other candidate is great. Hope you have a bit more discourse and debate here in the coming minutes. So let's, and notably in these questions that we will ask you. So please go, let's go to the question period. So we have prepared the 2 questions which have been submitted to the candidates, the 2 candidates in advance. And let me just check here. So Dr. Washizaki will open first. So Dr. Hinchey will now open the, get the first one to be able to answer this question. Did I get that right? Yes, it's Dr. Hinchey first, yes. So the question is the following. The IEEE upholds a mission to foster technological innovation and excellence for the betterment of humanity. It's quite an ambitious goal. As various global crises continue to intersect and the urgency emphasized by the UN regarding the potential failure to achieve the 2030 Sustainable Development Goals, how can the IEEE Computer Society actively, and I think that's the emphasis, actively contribute to addressing these challenges? And please provide in detail 1 specific and tangible example of how the IEEE Computer Society can make a positive impact in this regard. So, Dr. Hinchey, you have 2 minutes. We don't hear you.
Could we have the next slide, please, Steve? Thank you. So I think most people are familiar at this stage with the SDGs. As you know, it's 17 goals that are to be achieved by 2030, and those are broken down into 169 different actions. Each July, the United Nations via UNCTAD, the United Nations Commission on Trade and Development, produces the SDG Pulse. And the SDG Pulse is to identify those topics that are important for the coming year. Obviously, that lags a little bit behind issues. It didn't foresee COVID, for example, and it's a little bit behind on some others. The United Nations relies on a network of experts called the Science, Technology, and Innovation Expert of Networks, STIXNet, and I am a member of STIXNet. There are 14 members on this body, and I believe I'm the only technical person. The others are economists and policymakers, which of course is absolutely needed as well. But I think that the biggest bang for our buck, if you like, the one single thing that a computer society can do that would have a great effect is to 100% get behind the IEEE President's current plan on climate change. So climate change and action on climate change is SDG 13, but in fact, it impacts all sorts of other things. It impacts poverty, it impacts food availability, it impacts marine life, etc. So there are so many areas that interacts with. We can contribute in producing better battery power. We can adjust our programs that they use less power, that less resources are needed. We can look at how we can help develop better transportation, whether that's automated cars and the software that's needed in those, or whether it's other mechanisms. So I think if we get behind the climate change initiative, and there's a lot going on in that right now, the IEEE president will even be talking about it next week at the Sections Congress in Canada. I think we can get a huge return on this if we have to pick one topic alone. So I think climate action is where we should be looking at, where we should be trying to do a lot of work. And clearly the last few weeks alone have shown us how important that is going to be.
Thank you, Dr. Hinchey. Dr. Washizaki, it is your turn to answer this ambitious question, but important.
Yes. Okay, so okay, so my answer is that for this question one, so innovations and sustainable endeavors for global crisis and SDGs, as also Mike mentioned, that need interdisciplinary and open approaches. A typical example can be a sustainable technology based on a combination of multiple different areas such as green IoT, AI, as well as economic, social, organizational, and psychological approaches. So towards such direction, we need to respond to the demands of the emergence of interdisciplinary communities. So IEEE and computer society have mechanisms such as local groups and funding opportunities to make users make gatherings of special interest groups formed quickly to address interdisciplinary needs. We need to enhance such mechanisms and make them more agile. And academia, industry, governments, society collaborations through technical communities, global conferences, and regional activities involving broader generations and diversity, including senior and early career professionals, should also be the key to achieving interdisciplinary approaches. To support that, we need to show a guide to clarify the path from special interest groups and ad hocs to technical committees. In addition, we need to accelerate digital open science in computing by such as supporting open data, open access, open source, and open peer review. Some of these movements have just started in computer society in IEEE, so we need to push forward them. Also, the computer society needs to support meetings and gatherings, incorporating both in-person and virtual engagement. Okay, so that's my response to question one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's move to question number two. Question number two, a question I've had in my mind for many years. I've been a long time volunteer, so for many years, I've asked myself this question. Many students and academically affiliated professionals, researchers, and faculty members already have access to all the Computer Society's publications through their academic library subscription to IEEE Explorer, whether it be journals or refereed conferences, that they're already included in IEEE Explorer, and often academic libraries subscribe to these. Why should these affiliated professionals, researchers, and faculty members then also become a member of the Computer Society? So let's begin by Dr. Washizaki.
Yes, thanks, Pierre. Yes, indeed, this is a truly important question. Then my answer is that it is because there are clear benefits, but we need to make those benefits much more tangible. Okay, so there are benefits for computer society students and also professional members, including easy access to the latest research and practices, such as technical committees, computer society sponsored conferences discount, and also article publishing discounts, networking opportunities, including member-only chapter, regional activities, and early career activities, organizing computer society sponsored conferences, funding opportunities, and also learning opportunities and recognition, including educational courses and webinars, scholarships and awards, mentoring opportunities, becoming distinguished lecturers, and getting fellow status. As we see, they are already full of benefits. However, yes, we need to make these benefits stronger and more tangible, such as restructuring certification program to satisfy and recognize professionals. So that's why I firstly read the evolution of CBOK guide. And then based on that, we are going to reconstruct all certification programs aligned with CBOK guide and some other body of knowledge. And also we need to provide CS member limited job fairs, academia industry matching opportunities, and also member preferred participation in computer society sponsored events, and also valuable knowledge building opportunities such as Freebook Guide evolution, future evolution. And also, yes, computer society junior and ambassadors programs I'm currently envisioning. So those shall be the key to achieving and responding to that very important question. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Washizaki. Dr. Hinchey, this is your opportunity to answer this question.
Thank you. I think we shouldn't discount completely the benefit of Explore in attracting some members. There are some parts of the world where people don't have that access. And of course, places where people don't have good internet access. However, I didn't join 30 odd years ago to become a member just for the access to the publications. There were many more things. In fact, to be honest, I joined to become a volunteer and help in organizing a conference. But I was at an event last weekend. I was a keynote speaker at the African Student and Young Professional Congress. And the students had a great time. It was a very well organized event. The students had a great time and got engaged. And at the end, there was a round of discussions of people's feedback. And it was that they felt part of a community. They felt they really were part of a profession, and they were part of a community, and that community represented them. And I think that's really, really important. So of course, we have the advantages of offering scholarships, of student competitions, all the benefits of being able to attend conferences and events and webinars. We understand all of those things, but I really think it is a sense of being a member and belonging that was so important to these student members and young professional members. And I think that's what we have to say we are giving to them. We're giving them this wonderful asset that they don't get from other societies and they don't get without a computer society. So the IEEE has said recently they have a new tagline of your professional home. Hiro mentioned it in his opening. Well, computer society should be your professional home if you're anyway involved in computing, whether it's computer science, computer engineering, etc. So computer society should be your professional home and all of the advantages of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Hinchey. Could you please, there are some questions coming in on the chat, and I will take a selection of those in a few minutes, but some of them have been submitted prior to this meeting. So let's, could you go to the first additional question? Yes. So we will begin by Dr. Hinchey this time. So the question is the following: what impact do you expect tools such as ChatGPT, which is of course very much in the headlines these days, what impact do you expect tools such as ChatGPT will have on the computer society scientific or refereed publishing business model, if I may call it so? Dr. Hinchey?
Thank you, Pierre. I deal with publishers other than just Computer Society Press, and IEEE Press. There is a big concern in this situation that we're going to be fooled by papers that are not written by humans, they're written by ChatGPT. Certainly, ChatGPT is very impressive in what it does. I've experimented with it a little bit. The thing is that eventually it becomes obvious that it's not a genuine human. The problem is that it produces things that are reliant on material that's already out there. So it's producing things that are already available, just combining them in different ways and so on. So I think we'll be able to develop better means of detecting ChatGPT and similar techniques and similar tools that are being used. And as a result, we'll be able to stop fraud. But certainly there is a big concern at the moment that there is a lot of fraud and that we might be producing papers that are not genuine. However, if the papers are properly reviewed, we should at least be able to detect if they're technically incorrect. We may not be able to detect plagiarism 100% of the time, but we'll certainly be able to detect papers that are meaningless. And there's been examples of MIT students publishing papers that had complete junk in them. If papers are properly reviewed, that isn't going to happen. And papers should always be properly reviewed. So I don't see it as a big issue in that sense, but it's causing us extra work and extra headaches, certainly.
Thank you, Dr. Hinchey. What are your ideas on this, Dr. Washizaki?
Yes, thank you, Pierre. That's a pretty important question. So, well, we cannot stop the era of creativity enhanced by AIs, such as ChatGPT, right? But yes, we need to strike some balance. Okay, so and indeed, recently IEEE has made a policy about text generated by AI, such as ChatGPT. However, IEEE does not clearly mention about some other contents, such as images, videos, or for example, can we use images or figures generated by AI into my papers? IEEE doesn't clearly mention that. So we need to make very clear policy about using especially generative AI for publishing articles, submitting papers, not only about text, but also images and some other contents. But at the same time, we cannot stop the era of creativity. So based on such policy, we can encourage some authors and people to enhance their creativity, supported or enhanced by AI. So okay, so once again, we need to strike some balance between some regulation or policy and also some enhanced creativity. So we have to keep eyes on, and we need to investigate more about some best balance between them. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you to both of you. I suspect this will be an ongoing issue for a long time to come. We're not going to solve this one in the next coming days. Please go to the next question, which is somewhat of a management type of question. So we just talked about something that's new in terms of relatively new, something like ChatGPT, but there are some products that have been around for a while. So what activities or products currently offered by the IEEE Computer Society need to be retired or significantly modified? In a senior management position like this one, sometimes you have to take tough decisions. So Dr. Washizaki, what are your thoughts on this?
Thank you, Pierre. I would say certification. Okay. IEEE Computer Society, we are currently providing multiple certification programs, mostly in systems and also software engineering field. However, unfortunately, most of industrial professionals don't know what kind of certification programs have been provided by IEEE Computer Society. So it's time to reestablish, it's time to reconstruct those certification programs based on very solid body of knowledge. So that's why in these last years, I led the evolution of CVOC, software engineering body of knowledge, as a foundation for building further education contents, running courses, and also certification programs. So I say that those educational and professional contents, including certification programs, can be reconstructed in better way and in better shape. That's my answer to this question.
Thank you, Dr. Washizaki. Dr. Hinchey?
Well, I think a lot of people will say that in-person conferences should be retired and hard copy publications should be retired. I think that's a bit extreme. I enjoy both, so I would rather keep them. I'm sorry, Pierre, I know you'd rather we disagreed a little bit, but I have to agree with Hiro that I do think that the certification program does need to be revised. And of course, that is happening at the moment. Still in relatively early stages, but I do think it is also a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to make the computer society more relevant, more obvious, to increase membership, and prestige by being Computer Society certified. So I know we are working right now on certification in software engineering. So I wouldn't say it has to be retired, but I think a significant modification update is timely and, as I say, is ongoing.
Thank you, Dr. Hinchey. Could you go to the next question, please? So, talking about industry, both of you have discussed in your industrial experience when you presented yourselves at the beginning of the statement, but we know that a significant portion of the Computer Society membership is from academia or research institutes. So we would begin with Dr. Hinchey. What short statement could you use to convince members from industry of the Computer Society's relevance?
Okay, as a sort of a prelude to that, I have lots of colleagues who are members of a competing society that I won't name, and they tell me they don't want to join Computer Society because it's too industry focused, but industry people tell me they don't want to join Computer Society because it's too academic. So we're caught somewhere in the middle. So I think something to convince industry would be to say, Computer Society is interested in both academic, industrial, and practical application of the techniques that will improve society for all of us, and that industry is a major component in this because industry is where ideas, inventions, new technologies get developed and applied, and that is absolutely essential for the advancement of humanity.
Thank you, Dr. Hinchey. Dr. Washizaki?
Well, yes, that's a good question. And I believe that IEEE Computer Society is a hub to bridge among academia, industry, and government in computing and also related areas. And sometimes, unfortunately, even professional industrial members and non-members are not so aware of good engineering practice based on very solid theory and technologies. So it's time to bridge more theory, techniques, and industrial applications. So IEEE Computer Society shall be the best place to connect those theories, techniques, and industrial applications. So that's why we can convince industrial professionals to join IEEE Computer Society. Thank you.
So let me ask a question that's coming in has come in on the chat. It's sort of a follow-on question to the one that I was just asked. So in this case, it would be Dr. Washizaki first. Would you support a board-level vice president for industry engagement and elevating industry engagement to a committee of the board?
I suppose that. Well, right. Indeed, first of all, IEEE Computer Society, a board of governors, shall have much, variety of, different views, opinions, and so not only, of course, in academia, but also industry, and also maybe some academic, government, view, and so. Well, I support such, industrial, some, participation in board of governors, but also not only board of governors, but also at any level, at any group and community. We need to, secure much more, diversity and different views and different, positions, and so I definitely support that.
Dr. Hinchey?
Absolutely. I think it's actually a very good idea. And I'm not necessarily on a permanent basis, but certainly for a number of years till we get more industry interaction, and then we might be able to make it a more general position again. But the Board of Governors is currently looking at the roles of the vice presidents, and that might be a good time to do it. So I think it's a good idea.
Okay, let's continue with another question that's coming in, that has come in on the chat. Dr. Hinchey will begin. what would be your plans to promote geographic diversity? You notably mentioned Africa. I believe you were in Africa recently. So to promote geographic diversity in regions that have low proportional participation with respect to others, how would you support increased participation in regions that have less members?
Okay, well, that's actually very interesting. As you say, I was in Africa last weekend. I go a lot to India and I give a lot of talks in India. During lockdown, I gave several talks per month, notably at 4 o'clock in the morning, my time, which was wonderful. But I think it's important to give these people access to our events and our activities. So having more chapters in places where people need to get access. So for example, if you're in a large country and there's one chapter for the country, well, then people can't afford to travel long distances. It's not convenient to travel long distances. So if we can have additional chapters and so on, that may mean instead of having a chapter per country or per state, having multiple chapters. We can also try and bring some of the events closer to them, to the smaller areas. I know that won't necessarily mean we have a lot of local participation, but if it's somewhere attractive, people might be willing to come there anyway. So I think, making sure that those people have support. In Region 8, we have a lot of that. We have a large number of sections that have quite small membership. And again, that has been a lot of the issue. In a country like Nigeria, for example, it's just way too far and way too expensive to travel to some of the events. But if we can make some of those events more local, it may mean that they're smaller events, and that means a bit more work, but it would be a way to facilitate membership there and to facilitate the members there.
Thank you, Dr. Hinchey. Dr. Washizaki.
Yes, that's also a very important question. So I think there will be two aspects. One is that those regions, all regions, act locally by identifying what is the actual regional needs and possible solutions, because each region by region, has different needs, different challenge, different limitation. So we need to act locally to identify what is essentially a regional need and requirement, limitation, and also corresponding solutions. At the same time, secondly, we need to think globally, right? Across over different chapters, across over different regions, we can share, what's happening. What is a possible common solutions? What is a possible common practice? And we share that. And then again, act locally. So act locally and also think globally. That's a key to answer that question.
So I would like to thank you, Dr. Washizaki. I'd like to go to a follow-on question, which has also come in on the chat. So on the discussion, a chat for this webinar. So Dr. Washizaki, what would be your plans, or how would you perhaps maximize or increase the local chapter's influence in the decision-making process? And how do we get the information from the local chapters and their needs and so forth up through the pipeline to the senior leadership?
Okay, I think there will be two things. One is agile, and another is a kind of funding opportunity. One is that agile means fail first, okay? So because at the beginning, in any chapter, in any local activity, there is no perfect solution or perfect correct answer. So we encourage all chapters and group activities to be much more agile, fail first, and do quickly something and identify some what is a success and what is failure, and then improve that, and we encourage that, and at the same time we have to provide some midterm or long-term funding opportunities to support and grow such agile-based regional and group-based activities. So agile, and also some chapter and regional funding opportunities. Those two, it can be a key to encourage them, their regional and local activities. Thank you.
Dr. Hinchey, would you like to respond?
Sure. From my own experience as a section chair in a relatively large section, I found it was quite difficult to get chapters to provide information and to send the information up the chain. So I think we have to be careful that the fault is not with the higher levels, and many times it's that the lower levels are happy to work away with their own activities and not necessarily get involved with the section. So we need to encourage the leadership of the chapters to be more engaged with the section, to attend the section meetings, to provide the information. It is actually quite difficult to get some chapters to even complete the necessary forms so that they can get their rebates. And this is to their own disadvantage, but sometimes it's just impossible to get it. So I think we need to encourage the leadership of chapters to be more involved. And again, if the chapters were a bit more local, it would make life a little bit easier for some of them.
Dr. Hinchey, another question I would say on engagement, which has come in on the chat. What would be your strategy or thought leadership to tap into the new young professionals in industry? How do we get new young professionals more engaged and involved in the computer society?
Well, it's a bit like if we want women in STEM, we need to get to school children. It's something similar. We need to get them while they're still interested. So I think Hiro's suggestion of looking at school levels and so on is actually very useful. I think we can certainly encourage people by being visible at events where young people go to that are relevant. As I say, the event I was at last weekend, the young students and the young professionals really enjoyed the event because they felt part of a community. And so I think having physical events is very, very important for that, so that they can see there is a community. Of course, many young people like to do things online, so we also have to have things online that will allow them to join in and feel part of it, and that they have friends and colleagues on their social media, whatever form, whether it's Collaboratech or something else.
Dr. Washizaki?
Yes. Well, as I already mentioned in my position statements, I believe that I envision that a CS ambassador program and also CS junior program can be implemented. It can be feasible and doable and valuable for future of IEEE computer society, because by adopting, for example, CS ambassador program, ambassadors can recruit K-12 students and kids into CS juniors and also non-members in general into CS members. And then CS juniors would take various benefits, such as having mentoring, learning, and networking opportunities, resulting in finally becoming CS student membership and also upgrading to CS professional members. So, so I believe that these plans are feasible and valuable.
So I'm going to wrap up the questions, and we're going to move on to the closing statements to make sure that we actually conduct this town hall within the allotted time. Let's move to the closing statements, and you have 3 minutes, and then 1 minute at the end at the wrap up. So let's begin by Dr. Hinchey. Please provide your closing statement.
Thank you. So your president-elect is ultimately going to be your president, needs to have full knowledge of the computer society, its workings, its engagements, the people we deal with, society, industry, education, etc. So I believe I bring that experience. I have had lots of work experience dealing with industry as part of my role at NASA. I've had a lot of experience in other societies, as I mentioned, the Irish Computer Society and IFIP, the International Federation for Information Processing. I've also a lot of experience, of course, of computer society itself. For more than 30 years, I've been a volunteer. So I also bring expertise in the understanding of computer society and IEEE itself, and expertise in terms of my technical background, which is formal methods and autonomous systems. I'm also engaged. Again, I deal with all sorts of organizations. In my IFIP role, I dealt a lot with UNESCO, with the United Nations. I still deal with the United Nations and UNESCO in various ways. I engage with computer societies in other countries that are country specific, but have an overlap with our membership. And I go to a lot of events. I attend a lot of events, both as a speaker and as an attendee, to meet people, to engage with people. I think that's very, very, very important. And again, I have all sorts of global connections, partly from my background. I lived and grew up in Ireland, a lot of education in the UK, lived in Australia, US and Sweden. So I have a lot of connections with people who will be of value to Computer Society, who will come and join us and make the Computer Society great for every member. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Hinchey. Dr. Washizaki?
Yes, first of all, thank you for having this opportunity, tonight and today. And so, as I said, I have to.
Maybe for you, it's nearly tomorrow, Dr. Washizaki.
Very nearly.
Yes.
Please continue. I'm sorry if I interrupt.
No, it's okay. All right. So I have read, a Computer Society future strategic directions and also organize professional and education activities by serving as right now Computer Society first vice president and also the professional and educational activities board engineering disciplines chair. And for example, my achievements include, for example, the evolution of CBOK guide. It should be a very important, foundation for organizing education courses, running contents, and also certification programs. So if I get elected, I will promote Computer Society membership to get more engagement, especially for students and early career professionals. To do so, I propose, concrete strategies such as CS Ambassador and also CS Junior programs. And also I will expand academia, industry, government, society collaborations across other IEEE societies and external entities. Yes, indeed, I'm also working at some other sister societies and related entities such as ISO and also IPSG Japan. And so I have experiences to proceed with and extend such collaboration networks. And I will enhance activities that define and promote bodies of knowledge and related professional activities to build a solid foundation. And last but not least, I will strengthen digital open science environment. That's the inevitable, direction, such as open data, open source, open access, and open peer review. So thank you for having me today. And please consider your vote. Thank you.
Dr. Hinchey, we're going to wrap up this session. Would you have something else to add?
Thank you, Pierre. Thanks to Hiro, again, as I say, a formidable opponent, but I assure you, whoever wins this election, we will ensure that Computer Society is in good hands, and Hiro and I have already agreed that whoever wins, we will work together to make sure that Computer Society is well served. But I do appreciate your vote and do appreciate your support, and I hope you will continue to enjoy Computer Society as your professional home. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Washizaki?
Thank you, Pierre, and also Mike. Yes, at Panama, with Mike, we discussed and we agreed that, regardless of the, result, we work and we believe that we can do, better and make, IEEE Computer Society, stronger and also much more better. And so I believe that this town hall was truly a good opportunity to identify some common and also somewhat different views on Computer Society and also related activities. And I hope and also participants enjoy this town hall and I hope we can envision the good future of Computer Society together. Thank you.
Thank you. So first of all, I would like to wrap up this session. I would like to thank our two candidates for taking part. Both of you are very senior and experienced, long-time serving volunteers, and I wish both of you the best of luck in the Computer Society presidential elections. Thank you for being here and answering all these and making your statements and answering all these questions. I would also like to thank everybody who was online And I would like to mention that I appreciate all the questions that have been submitted. And these are some of the questions where I did not have the opportunity to ask them, but they will be archived. And in fact, we may ask them next year for the next presidential town hall meeting. So they will all be, put in the backlog, if you wish, and they may come up next year. So thank you for submitting them. Thank you for all the attendees for being participating online during this session, and not necessarily offline. And for those who will be listening to me offline, thank you for listening to this session as well. And of course, before I wrap up, I would like to thank various staff members who took part in organizing this event. And most importantly, to everyone, please vote. That's the most important part. Please vote. And thank you very much. And to all of you, wherever you may be in the world, whether it be in the morning, the afternoon, the evening, or tomorrow, all the best and good day. Thank you.